So we will now have the inaugural lecture. We are on schedule, 11 o'clock. Professor V.N. Jha, as introduced earlier, he was the former director, Center of Advanced Study in Sanskrit, Pune University. He is also the former founder chairperson, Special Center of Sanskrit Studies, JNU. Right? Please put your hands together again for Professor Jha. He's going to give us the inaugural lecture. Right?
मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपा तमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। Respected Rajiv ji, and my esteemed colleagues and friends. It's a matter of great pleasure to be here and associate myself with this historic moment. And since it is the first in the series, and Professor Kannan invited me to be a part of it, so I first thank Professor Kannan for doing this kindness. Of course, I am thankful to Professor Rajiv Malhotra for reminding us to perform our Swadharma. Swadharme nidhanam shreyah paradharmo bhayavah. The Lord has already told us, so you need someone to come and tell us. We were not like this, friends. Manu, though he's looked down upon by the intelligentsia, but he had a confidence. एतद्वेष प्रसूतस्य सकाशात् अग्रजन्मनः स्वं स्वं चरित्रं शिक्षेरं पृथिव्यां सर्वमानवाः. So he wanted the India to become a model to be followed by the rest of the world. I think this was an outburst of a confidence. I hail from eastern part of the country. We have a very popular saying, Tarkeshu karkasha dhiyaha vayameva nandi. You want to engage in logic? Karkasha dhiyaha. You can do it. I am ready. Kavyeshu komanadhiyaha vayameva nanye. Do you want to engage in the discourse of aesthetics? Oh, we are ready. I think this is characterization of Indians. This is what we wear. And I do not know what happened. Slowly, this is what we are. But anyway, I must thank that someone is there to remind us, oh, this was not that you were. is Rajiv Malhotra ji. So Rajiv ji, thank you so much for. He has narrated the entire story. So even I did not know all this. I am a product of a tradition, intellectual tradition, philosophical tradition, spiritual tradition. But I had the fortune to undergo modern training as well. And so now and then I keep on getting acquainted what is going on all over the globe. But there are limitations. So I have also been educated by you, by this introduction that you have given. And it is in this sense that I consider that this is a historic moment. We must claim back what we have. We used to do this not emotionally. Our enterprise was never emotional. It was firmly rooted in rationality. But my favorite field is Nyaya Shastra, therefore. All along, whenever the debate emerged, we converted into a rational debate. We wanted to have a knowledge of cause and effect relationship. Because wherever you fall short in demonstrating a causal relationship, emotionality peeps in and overpowers rationality. So that it should not happen, the tradition was always alert. Believe it or not, all intellectualism that you have today, whatever little is left out, and all that is recorded in the textual form, have the background or the context of Vedic rituals. And therefore, if you perform such and such activity, you are going to get such and such result. That result used to be laukika phala and also alaukika. Verifiable, I translate in this way. Verifiable and not immediately verifiable. Not that not verifiable, but I would say I will postpone verification. I will have to prepare myself for verification, and maybe in course of time I may be able to verify. And this all happens even any scientific enterprise. So adrishta phala and drishta phala. Okay, so far drishta phala is concerned, you are not required to take much effort to demonstrate causal relationship between the act and the result that is going to yield. But how to demonstrate the causal relationship between an act and the result which is of the category of adrishta? And there the rationality began. It is in this context you find many sciences emerging out of it. The Shastra started originating from it. Logic is one such. And the prime concern was to demonstrate there is a causal relationship between an act and the act claims to produce the result which is not instantly verifiable. And therefore, but to do this rationally, the tradition wanted to develop a number of tools. The first tool required was to have a grip over the structure, because all the discourse has to take place through language. And language has a structure. So you must develop a tool to grasp the structure of language. And we got in the form of Panini the structure of Sanskrit language, how to acquaint ourselves with the structure of language. First tool. So one must have, if one wants to participate in the debate, one must be acquainted with the structure of the language of discourse. Discourse does not take place but with a single sentence. You need sentences after sentences, chapters after chapters, books after books. And this is not within the range of the boundary of a grammatical sentence. We wanted to go beyond the boundary of a grammatical sentence in order to address this. And therefore another science emerged in the form of Purva Mimamsa, a science of sentence interpretation. You can call it Indian hermeneutics. The main purpose is to arrive at the meaning of a text. And the third requirement was, of course, that whatever we do, whatever we think, the thoughts must be cogent, rationally arranged, and so you must be thorough in logic. And so we developed a third Shastra called Nyaya Shastra. These are the basic requirements for developing scholarship. And with this minimum requirement alone, one was able to take part in any discourse to arrive. Discourse, the Sanskrit term for discourse is Vada. Vada is defined. You see, another beauty of the tradition is that we do not initiate any discourse without conceptual clarity. Whatever term we are going to use, first we are required to define. And therefore, if it is a Vada mode of engagement, it is necessary that we must define what Vada is. And the Vada has been defined as Tattva Bubhutsu Katha. It's a discourse which the very purpose of this is to arrive at the truth. So any discourse, any engagement, any linguistic engagement, verbal engagement, which aims at arriving at the truth is a discourse. So Tattva Bubhutsu Katha. And we have a tradition of Vada. Vada is different from Vivada. Then we started to have a form of discourse. And you will find that we started developing one after the other. And one most prominent form of a discourse has been Adhikarana Paddhati, where Vishayaha, again, the moment you utter a term, you have to define it. This is the tradition. And then communication becomes easier. Without definition, if you go on using a term, you may understand in one way, the other may understand in another way. And that was the problem the tradition was facing. And so they adopted a method that, okay, before we engage into any debate, let us define those terms that we are going to use. So they defined even Adhikarana. What is Adhikarana? Adhikarana is a form of a discourse which satisfies there should be a topic, there should be different views on the topic. Vishayo, Vishayaschaiva. Purva Paksha. The third component required is that there should be a Purva Paksha. Tathottara. Then the Uttara Paksha. But all this should be connected by a very important Sangati. It should be cogent. There should be a thread of rationality flowing all through the discourse. This should be the form of the discourse. And you will find that Jaimini Sutra, Shavara Bhashya, and the entire tradition of Purva Mimamsa is presented in this form, which was taken over by Vedanta, Vadarayana, and applied. There are debates whether it is the same Shastra or don't worry about that. Now, unless you prepare scholars and train them with this method of engaging in a serious debate, you are not doing the Indian way of debate. And therefore, I am talking of a little long-term goal. The short-term goal is all necessary. It is immediate goal. Someone is attacking your Shraddha. So it must attend. But you should also think simultaneously of the long-term goal. How this country can claim back that confidence that the country had once upon a time. I think we should think in both the ways. Yes. Immediate goal as well as the long-term goal. All discourses in this country have been holistic in nature, because all that we should do in one way or other must do something for my life. And therefore the question of Purushartha came. Purushartha means something which is meant for me. So all that we do, whether material or non-material, concrete or abstract, whatever happens, it should be for me. So Purusha, Artha, it is for me. Prayojanam, we always say that Prayojanam Anuddishya Namandopi Pravartate. So even a fool will not initiate an activity unless he is told that out of the activity he is going to get something or not. That something may be drishta, but that can something also be adrishta, even up to why we have gone into that. And therefore all the purposes have been categorized into two categories in the tradition. Purpose one is called Abhyudaya. Abhyudaya is all that you want to achieve. I translate it as achievement. And no one can say, well, I don't want to achieve anything. Even the worker on the street wants to achieve something. A professor or anybody for that matter wants to achieve something. So again you can see that it's all pervasive discourse. Any human being in the universe is addressed towards under this theory, that he works, he acts, is prompted by, any act is prompted by a purpose. What should be the purpose? The first purpose, immediate purpose, is achievement, or Abhyudaya, the Sanskrit term. Another term is Shreyas, Preyas. Then why? Then just stop there. Why do you go beyond prayers or beyond achievement? Why are you floating the idea of apavarga, mukti, moksha, this and that, all that? Again, there is a discourse that there is no upper limit for Abhyudaya. You cannot say that after achieving this, I don't want to achieve anything further than this. So one fulfillment of desire results into another desire that requires to be fulfilled. Once that is fulfilled, gives rise to another desire, and it has no upper limit where the desire will say, well, I don't want anything. Najatu kamaha. Again, Manu has not been studied properly. He was a great philosopher. Najatu kamaha kamanam upabhoge na shamyati. You go on satisfying the desire. The desire will never tell you that I am satisfied. It is something like fire. You want to satisfy fire by pouring ghee into the fire. Is it going to get up and say, well, I don't want ghee here after? It is something like that. Havisha Krishna Bhartmaiva Bhuya Eva Vivardate. The flame goes on, keeps on going up and up. Give me more, give me more, give me more. This analysis is not of today or yesterday. That is what I say, we lost everything. We lost thinking habit. So, Abhyudaya is the first goal. Now I realize that Abhyudaya does not have an upper limit, and therefore that which does not have an upper limit can never give me peace. That never give me happiness, because I am not satisfied. Since I am not satisfied, and if satisfaction is the aim of my life, how can Abhyudaya be promoted as the ultimate goal of human life? And therefore, the analysts go further and propose another goal, and that is your Nishreyasa. Nishreyasa is a state of fulfillment, a feeling of fulfillment, where you say, Triptos, me, I am satisfied. Well, I don't want anything better. That state should be certainly because in that state you have no agitation. You have only peace because all your desires have been fulfilled and you do not have any other desire. So, all these things are defined. I am not talking from my mind. I am talking from the tradition. And the tradition, as I told you, cannot talk unless they are able to define that concept. This capacity we have to generate in younger generation, the thinker. We have to convert this into thinking human beings. So, itara ichha, adhina ichha vishayatvam is the definition of Abhyudaya. And itara ichha, anadhina ichha vishayatvam is the definition of Nishreyasa, a state of fulfillment. Friends, when such is the scenario, under this scenario, if Meera gives me 2 articles of Pollock to read, one is on Shastra and other is on philology. What is that? Critical philology. Name may be different. Political philology. Okay. Towards a political philology. Well, I am thankful to Meera. In that way, I am not up to date, Rajivji. I have been so much involved in the traditional form of discourse. And after my retirement in 2006, for the last 20 years or so, I have become a mobile university. Because I tried my universities, I tried different corners of the government organizations to tell them, okay, if you want to regain your own character, you must imbibe these values into education. You empower each and every person in this country with this strength of thinking independently. No, we have never accepted anything without thinking. This is our record. We are not a blind. So when some such aspirations I read in such articles, I become restless. Well, how can he befool But he can befool all because they have lost everything. But perhaps he cannot befool me. I know the original text and I can verify that all that he has said is all not the truth. So what I did was I read these two. I'm sorry, I have already I forget time. Some of the things that now I tell you Shastra. What is Shastra? Shastra, he is struggling. Of course, I agree, he is a very hard worker. He knows Sanskrit, though he depends on translations more. But he knows Sanskrit. He knows the sources, but he also knows how to interpret them. So to say that that Shastra has become a block of progress, that is his view. It has blocked progress. It has blocked emergence of new knowledges. How can I accept? Well, by Shastra, perhaps in entire idea is, though, you see, dictionary meaning is something different, no? In a dictionary, Sanskrit word Shastra may have 1, 2, 3, 4, several meanings. You are not a freedom to use any meaning that you like. Because language is intentional. Language is contextual. Language has to care for the context in which the particular term has been used. So without caring for the context, how can you interpret a term? If you are doing, then you have some other agenda in your mind. And I have discovered that agenda as well. He has already told this several times, but I will be telling you, showing you. So, how can, now the Vedangas, for example, science of phonetics is a science. Now if I want to study phonetics, do I go to study the Veda or do I go to study the Vedanga, Siksha? Is it not a new knowledge? The knowledge which has been presented in Siksha, is it not, if the same knowledge would have been found in the Veda itself, then I would not have gone to study Siksha text. The very fact that I am going to study Siksha and not the Veda implies that the knowledge which was available is not available here. Therefore, new knowledges started emerging. So science of phonetics, science of grammar, Vyakarana Shastra. You see, these are all sciences. So why not you say that Shastra is a science? Boundedness, a legislative rule. These are the kind of a translation that is providing. Shastra is something kind of a rule by legislation you have to follow. Instead of that, why don't you say it is a science? You say theory. How far does it fit into? It may fit into in one context, it may not fit into another. So how can you generalize the entire bulk of the tradition by a single phrase called theory to incorporate everything under that paradigm? So dictionary meaning will not help you. What will help you is the context in which the term has been used. We have also developed a methodology to arrive at that. You see, Tatparya, what is the intended meaning is the meaning, and how to arrive at the intention of the speaker. Even in ordinary language, yeah, I may use a particular term in a particular sense. So unless you know with what intention I uttered that, how can you be sure that you have understood me? And so, the Shastrakaras, the authors of the tradition, they developed a methodology to arrive at the intention of the speaker as well. So, Laukika Vakya. And now the beauty, you see, now those were, now the Mimamsakas and the Vedantis, many of them did not take the Veda to be Paurushaya. They declared it a Paurushaya. The beauty is that, it's much more admiring that I can derive the intention from the text. So text itself will tell me what is the meaning of the text. I need not depend on anybody. When I am before you, you may ask me, Professor Jha, in what sense are you using this? But when I am not there, you are left with the text of mine. That the text should tell you what text means. This attempt was also made by the Mimamsakas. So Mimamsaka developed a methodology by now you say the text speaks to author now, modern postmodernism. These are given the names, you know. We also have different names, Navya Tara, Hatuahu. We also have this. It is not that these things were happening only there and nothing was happening here. So we also developed how to derive, how to retrieve, how to extract the intention with which the expressions were made. All this were done, and then in spite of that, unless you are getting familiarized with all this, and if you take a freedom, the way you want to interpret, this will take you nothing but anarchy. And all that you want to arrive at with an agenda that I am going to point. So all these Vedangas are the sciences. So mathematics came into being, astronomy came into being, because you had to prepare the calendar for activities of the whole year. The rituals were to be performed for the whole year. So you wanted to know the seasons. So you want to study the constellations. So astronomy came into being. Mathematics without that is not possible. So mathematics so all necessity, you say necessity is the mother of invention. So as and when we required a knowledge, we created a knowledge. And so knowledge did not develop. This kind of a statement is really very difficult for me to understand. That Shastra blocked the emergence of new knowledge. How can I accept all this? I do not have time, otherwise I would have read some of them.
We have another 15 minutes. No, please proceed. 13 minutes, yeah. Very one.
Yeah. Now, for example, Shastra, another term is a Chodana, for example. Now, Chodana is a term used by Mimamsakas. Jaimini uses the term Chodana with a definition. Chodana, Lakshano, Arthaha, Dharmaha. They define Dharma. What is Dharma? Dharma is that injunction. Dharma is that activity which is enjoined by a Vedic injunction. Now you can see that something is enjoined. And as Artha has been enjoined, something good has been enjoined, that this activity is good for me. Can I judge it? Can any human being judge that this activity is good for me? The activity which has been enjoined by the Vedic injunctions. Is it possible for you to decide, finally decide, that well, this is going to yield me this result? So, Ishta Sadhanata Dharma, in the activity which has been enjoined, is beyond the capacity of human being to finally arrive at that this is the means for this result. So Veda Bodhita Ishta Sadhanata, this property remains to be decided beyond the capacity of human being. And therefore, it is only the Veda who can tell you that. Why? Because this has been presuppositions that the Veda is free from all human associations. Meaning thereby that any sentence can mislead that sentence if it is uttered by a human being. The human being, what is a sentence after all? Sentence is an encoded thought. If it is a thought of a human being, howsoever pure, unintentional, even inadvertently, his sentence may mislead someone. So let us remove the association of human being from Vedic sentences. This is the meaning of Apaurushaya. it should not be taken in the literal sense. The meaning of Apaurushaya is this, that here is an injunction. That is why Sabara Swamin, in his Bhashya of Jaimini, he uses a very beautiful term, Suhrid Upadesha. It's an advice of a friend. Advice of a friend is not a compulsion, no. It's an advice. Advice is after all advice. So how can you say that this is going to a legislative, so injunction or all legislative rules, that you have to do it? Veda informs about a means to achieve that goal. That goal may be artha, and then can also be something which you may like, but may lead to anartha. So artha and anartha, both are informed. Causal relations of both have been informed. But what is recommended as upadesha, here's Suhrid Upadesha, is injunction, that is the chodana, that is the shastra, and that is why shastra becomes so authoritative, so friendly. So it's a friend's advice. So instead of translating it as a friend's advice, if you start translating as a legislative compulsion, compulsory regulation, how are you going with the interpretation of Indians by interpreting this kind of a rule? So this is one thing that I was not happy. You see, Nyaya Manjari, there was a logician called Jayanta Bhatta in Kashmir in 9th century. There was a great logician called Jayanta Bhatta. He wrote Nyaya Manjari. Is by many philosophers, he is considered to be a Russell of the East. So free in his thinking. He writes in the beginning, and this man interprets in a different way. Our approach is, before we write some book, we remember God, and then we say, who are we to write? It is something, somebody is getting written by me. This humbleness and humility. So, Jayanta Bhatta, now before that, the earlier one, I'm just collecting. I'm sorry. The translation that he's doing is of the verse, Kutuva nutanam vastu vayam utprekshatum kshamaha. We are women, Jayanta is telling that from Nyaya Vanaushadhi, from the forest of logic, I have collected some herbs and prepared a juice out of that, rasa. And then he says, so I am just summarizing it and helping you to understand that in a proper perspective. So I am adding a perspective. So I can claim only that much. No? Has any scientist created a particle of a dust? So in what sense I have created this kind of a humbleness is expressed. Kutova nutanam vastu vayam utprekshatum kshamaha. We are human beings. How can we create something which does not exist in this universe? Then what is the meaning of creation? All those who are happy with the creation, I am the creator, creative writing and all that, they all become angry when I say this. I said, well, he has given the answer. To what extent you can claim your own creativity? He says, Vacho vinyasa vaichitryam kevalam avadharyata. Your claim of creativity is only to the extent of rearranging the given. So you have been given something. The universe has been given to you. And your creativity is nothing more than arrangement of the given, rearrangement of the given, or rearrangement of the given. This is the meaning of the verse. And this man, You see, now I'm reading his translation of this. You understood what the meaning of how can we discover any new fact or truth? One should consider novelty only in rephrasing the older truths of the ancients in modern terminology. This is terminology. The whole beauty is gone. Simply twisted. And while so in this way, one after the other, he goes on translating those original Sanskrit terms the way he likes, and creates an idea that India has not contributed any new knowledge. What Indians have done is only reproduced what was found in the Veda. Veda is Shastra from him, for him, and that is legislative regulation. Legislative regulation, that is the term that he uses, and therefore you have not done anything. I say, look at the philosophical systems. Had there not been freedom of thought, is it possible to have 8 varieties of Vedanta? Then there should have been only one system of philosophy. Vedanta is interpretation of Upanishads, right? Then there should be only one interpretation. But why there is Advaita, Dvaita, and what is the proof? Proof is the same Upanishad. The same Upanishad giving rise to 8 varieties of schools of thought. Is it possible without freedom of thought? Who will buy such stories? So, it is not acceptable at all. It cannot be demonstrated by rationality that this interpretation is true, that the Indians did not. Even same system, for example, Purva Mimamsa, 3 schools. We have a Bhatta school, interpretation by Bhatta, Kumarila Bhatta, Prabhakara school, Prabhakara Mishra, and Murari Mishra. 3 schools of interpretation of the same text. Without freedom, without contribution, without any dialogue, is it possible? We always adopted, all development in thinking has taken place in this country only through dialogue. We have a clear, demonstrable history of 1000 years up to Udayanacharya. Even if you take one system, for example, Nyaya Shastra, where the Nyaya Shastra on one hand and the rest all on the other hand. And you have a history. Our dialogue was by writing commentaries over commentaries over commentaries over commentaries, and this is how the Chatur Granthika, that you have exposition of the Nyaya Sutra, up 1000 years history, intellectual history of intellectual debate of this country, engaging the Buddhists, the Jainas, and all those who do not belong to the camp of Nyaya. Is it possible without intellectual participation? Is it possible without dialogue? So all development is only through dialogue. We have lost that tradition, and that tradition is required to be bad. Then I was searching that why is he doing this? What was the reason that he's out and out now to interpret this only in this way? And Meera, thank you for sending another article. And then the political philology. Well, I did MA in philology. I'm an MA from Calcutta University in comparative philology. So I could understand the terms that he's using. But I tell you, unless you are familiar with the terminologies used by Sherlock, you cannot. So I think you need the help of Rajiv ji, because he knows the inner stories. So he will help you to understand the terms that he's using. His English also is not ordinary English. So then he has come. He has now. So the color of his goggle is here. That's what he said. I'm reading from his culture and power. He's not interested in knowing the culture. Culture and power are two sides of the same coin. And it is the task of the critical philology to read both. Not just the text of literature. He's not interested in knowing the text of literature. He wants to know the political behind that. But the text of the political too. And his focus is on the political. So his color of his goggle through which he is looking at Indian tradition, Indian intellectual, philosophical and spiritual tradition is this color, that he wants to focus the political part of it and not the either aesthetic part of it or the intellectual part of it or the contributory part of it, but the political. And he wants to create a kind of a mess by repeating it again and again. And so I think this is the reason, this is the color through which, this is the goggle through which he is reading, and that is why perhaps he's interpreting the entire tradition in this light. Otherwise, he's a good scholar. Of course, he's a good scholar. He knows Sanskrit. He knows many times what he does, the rule, for example, the term rule, the Kantian concept of rule that he brings, as he was pointing out. There's some of the things that he has already trained in that, because he's trained in that culture. And he has imbibed those concepts. Now with these concepts in the background, now he's coming across these terms, he's trying to interpret those only the rule should not be taken in the sense the Kant has used. That is a compulsion, it's a command, that you have to do it, compulsion, legislate, all these words are coming from him is only because of that. So I think that if we have to provide a response to such authors, we have to prepare ourselves. We have to prepare. It's a very difficult task. It's not an easy task. First, we have to be thorough with our own tradition. But that is not enough. You have to be also acquainted with the color or the terminology, the background of the author who is attacking our culture from that angle. It's a difficult task. So immediately is okay, that what we are doing is perfectly all right. It was the time it should have happened, rightly condensed, it should have happened before, long before, but never, better late than never. It's the right time, and we should again be thankful to Malhotra ji for reminding us this. But I should also tell you that we should also have side by side a future plan. And a very robust plan is necessary. That how to make available. If you say education is the right of everybody, I think everybody's right is to get access to the knowledges and the knowledge systems created by the country. And therefore, the government must create an opportunity, an institution for this to happen. This is for a longer remedy, but immediate remedy is exactly, perfectly all right. I wholeheartedly support this enterprise, and to whatever extent it is possible for me, I will be with you all along. Thank you again for associating me with this. Thank you very much.